Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Turnup. We have been gone for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 weeks, but we are excited to be back, and we are going to be back weekly. That is our promise to you. It is just CK and I, and there's so much we need to cover. There's so many crazy things happening in this world. Like, there's just a lot going from week to week. Imagine if you missed 3 weeks. CK, what is even going on right now?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on. It doesn't matter because in 2 days, football is back. Trump's been looking for a distraction for the last month and a half from this Epstein guy, whoever he is. And I guarantee you he has it come Thursday night for the next 4 or 5 months.
Oh, CK and Epstein, a tale as old as time. Well,
People don't forget.
well, at least you don't. But it is becoming back page news as the news cycle moves so quickly and there's so many things going on. So I want to talk about what I think is the biggest thing going on and maybe the biggest risk reward out of anything since, I don't know, a month ago when we bombed Iran. That was pretty high risk, high reward. So that is Trump's crackdown on DC. So in mid-August 2025, President Trump invoked Section 740 of the DC Home Rule Act to federalize the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C., deploying National Guard troops and federal agencies to address what he called a crime emergency. The initiative led to hundreds of arrests, particularly tied to immigration and carjacking, and was credited with steep declines in certain crimes, though critics raised concerns about the overreach and civil liberties. Over Labor Day weekend, after a surge in shootings left 8 dead and dozens wounded in Chicago, Trump announced he plans to deploy federal forces there as well, despite strong oppositions from the governor and mayor, who cited recent statistics showing significant reductions in homicides and shootings. Supporters argue that these actions provided swift results, created a strong deterrence against violent crime, and supply overwhelmed local systems with additional resources and authority, making them a potential effective tool to restoring public safety. CK, is this great? Is DC a safer place? Did they get rid of the homelessness? Did they get rid of the crime? What is it, 8, 9, 10 days without a shooting, without a homicide? Or is this another aggressive move by Trump to consolidate power and create an overreaching big brother government that will do what it wants when it wants?
I never want to endorse a bigger government, more authoritarianism. However, it's not like the capital D Democrats who, are in charge of every single major city in the United States aren't as authoritarian and big government as you can be. And, as the late, great Al Davis said, just win, baby. You can't argue with results. So from the same time last year, burglaries are down almost in half, homicides in half, robberies more than half, less carjackings, less every theft, violent crimes cut in half. This is just the same window of time. I think a 5-year average versus this year, and also the same time of year, same dates, and everything is cut in half. The other thing you could say is Bowser, the mayor of DC, a hard, very staunch Democrat, he won her over. If you win her over, it's like, it's like winning Gavin Newsom, Lori Lightfoot, name your liberal, and winning them. That's crazy. And then I've seen the media point to statistics of like 80%, 75% of DC residents oppose it. And Mark, you know how much percent of the vote Trump won in DC?
What, 20%, 23%?
In the election?
Yeah.
6%.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize it was that bad.
So when 25% say it's a good idea, or 20%, whatever it is, that's 18% of never Trumpers saying, yeah, it's actually pretty nice walking around without getting, carjacked. Those numbers are actually, they don't say what you think it says. It's outstanding when you look at how much this city hates Donald Trump. In the Republican primaries, when Nikki Haley, before she dropped out, The only single electorate she won was in D.C. Every single other Republican base voted for Trump, but D.C. voted for Nikki Haley over Trump in the Republican Party, the only one to do it. That's how, I mean, he won Nikki Haley's home state.
That's
But D.C.
crazy.
is the most never Trump city and district, in the United States. And 25% is a win. And also the crime is a win. So I mean, if you're a resident, you can't argue with the results.
CK, would you classify this as another 80-20 issue? And so I want to be very careful. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, this is terrifying. This is government overreach. If he, crosses that red line, it's horrific. But from everything we've seen so far for the 1-2 weeks that this has been happening, so far it's pretty much, I don't want to say anything's an absolute, but pretty much a win. When you just look at the videos, see the pictures of and read the statistics of the crime going down, of the homeless encampments, being cleaned up. Now, where are the homeless people going? I don't know. That's probably a rabbit hole we can dive down into if you want. But here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. Just about everybody knows that American cities suck. And they know they suck because the crime's horrible, they're dirty, they're run down, they're not taken care of. Why is that, right? It's the crime, it's not taking care of the poverty, it's not doing all the things you're supposed to do to create a great city. And this seems like the first step to actually cleaning it up. And so far, right now, it's all good. Like the crime is literally going down. And so if you are that mayor in Chicago right now saying, never Trump, you're not coming to my city, dude, you're taking the losing argument again. If you look at DC, Trump is not killing civilians. He's not killing homeless people. He's not doing all the things that would cross that red line, which would be like, oh, nope, okay, this is really bad. The government overreach is horrible. We can't do that. So far, it's just people that are breaking the law. And to be like, oh yeah, Chicago's a safe place. Dude, you see all those interviews online of all the citizens of every single background you can imagine saying, no, it's not. This is not a safe place. Chicago is one of the most violent cities in the entire world. I read a statistic that said if you removed the 4 most gun violent cities in America, the United States would go from the number 1 and number 2 most gun violent country in the world to like 193rd. 4 cities represent 99% of all gun violence in America, which is insane. And it's not talked about on the news. If we got a gun report as much as we got school shootings, which is obviously horrible, it would be nothing but Chicago gun violence every single day.
Yep.
So I don't see at this point in time how this is a bad thing. I can see how it can get to a bad thing, but from what we've seen so far, CK, what's the counter argument?
I don't have one. Even as a libertarian, it's as the old adage goes: if it's stupid but it works, then it ain't stupid. And it seems to be working. And here's, I think, the underlying genius part of it that no one really seems to talk about. Everybody loves the troops. Democrats, Republicans, even anti-war people. They say, I respect the troops. That's why I don't want them to die. Everyone supports the troops. Everyone. That is not even 80-20. That's a 95-5. Yep. And so if you fill the streets of D.C. with more police, there'd be pig, blah, 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 blah. If you fill them with more ICE agents, there would be fights, just like you saw in California. You fill them with troops, even the most ardent Democrats are walking up to them and saying, even if they're saying, sorry you're here, they're saying, sorry you're here, thank you for your service, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And so I think that's part of the magic. Maybe he didn't plan it that way, but it's kind of why it works, is because people support the troops.
And how is it being used, right? From every video I've seen, and if something terrible happened or they stepped out of line, it would be everywhere, so we'd all see it. What are the troops doing? They're walking around, they're being present, they're going through the parks, through the subways. What are they not doing? They're not slamming homeless people into the ground. They're not arresting illegal immigrants, right? They are there as a presence, as a deterrent.
Yep.
Now,
this
someone
goes
open
down
up
south if one knucklehead fires,
yeah, if you have a Kansas State on your hands, then it's a totally different story. But that's how. But they're being used in such a brilliant way. To your exact point, hey, just walk the streets, be present. your presence alone is going to deter people from breaking the law. And, God forbid, someone doesn't open up fire on the troops. They're probably just going to continue to do that. Now, if someone opens up fire on the troops, you're opening up Pandora's box, and I don't think anyone can guess the next steps.
Yeah. You know what else they're
What's
doing?
that?
They're picking up trash. They're doing beautification
Yeah.
projects. And
Yeah.
honestly, that one I wouldn't have predicted, but it's popular. People are saying, well, at least my taxpayer money is going toward public works. That's what I wanted. I didn't even want a big army. I wanted public works, and now at least we're paying them for that.
Yeah, it's all these small little wins.
It's weirdly working, and
I didn't think it would work at first. I'm not going to lie. I really did. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is bad. I texted one of my buddies. I'm like, oh, this is really, really bad.
Yep.
But I'm not going to lie. I'm very, well, obviously I'm pleasantly surprised because I don't want the alternative.
Hard to argue with the results.
It is. So I think you and I are both in agreement that so far this is an A+ move. You're going to get a clean DC. You're going to get people following the law. Now, how long does it take to change the culture? I don't know. As soon as the national troop soldiers go home, do things go back the way? Or now, because we've seen what it looks like, the public's going to get more behind it. The police are going to, have the support to hold the line and keep things from going back to the way they are. But I'll say one thing before we change topics. I think it's a really bad idea for Trump to go to Chicago, even though Chicago is one of the worst cities in all of America. I think Trump should take this playbook and he should go to red states. He should go to conservative states, find the blue city, because all cities in America are blue, or just about all of them are blue, and make sure you have the support of the governor, and then obviously Congress, the congressional members, and the Senate. That way you aren't fighting, a massive PR battle. I don't know, go down to Georgia. That's a red state. Atlanta has a ton of crime, a ton of issues. You can go down to Atlanta, have support of everybody but the mayor, clean it up, and just build momentum and go through the deep south and clean up all the cities. Birmingham's a rough city. It's a small city, but it's still really rough. If you look, Memphis is bad. There's so many cities that he can go to clean up. That would be such a huge win. And honestly, significantly easier than trying to clean up Chicago. Chicago is a massive, it's not DC, man. It is a massive city. So I just don't think it's smart to go bite the Democrats' head off. I would just try and count some easy wins.
Trump is not a play it safe guy. He wouldn't be in the seat he is. He wouldn't be in the White House if he was a play it safe
It's
guy.
not even playing. It's just being strategic and smart.
No, because I think this is big risk, big reward. Because if you, in a deep blue, everyone around you is blue, state and city like Chicago, if you clean Chicago up in a month or less, then you expose it. Every governor and every congressman and every senator and every mayor, every single politician from the bottom to the top is a Democrat, and for the last century, and they keep saying the problem is the Republicans. Problem is the Republicans. One Republican guy in 30 days cleans it up. You might flip Illinois. He doesn't need to flip Georgia. Illinois was not that far off for Trump. It was Chicago for Harris, and Illinois, the rest of Illinois for Trump. And even Chicago, he had like a 20-point improvement from last time he ran. So if he wins 15 points in Chicago, Illinois might flip. And if Illinois flips, the Dems don't win for 3 election cycles.
Dude, that would be crazy. So
that's the game.
Speaking of,
and not only that, with the presence, you're protecting ICE, and if you protect ICE, you deport illegals, and if you deport illegals, then places like Illinois, their congressional seat map goes down, which means less Democrat congressional seats, more Republican congressional seats, because all of this is also for presence and protection when ICE comes in and does their thing.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. So speaking of a blue state and a blue city, I want to transition over to California. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about Gavin Newsom. Before I get into the main thing, which is gerrymandering, which I think is on the tops of just about everybody's mind. I have this one super, super liberal friend, and I love talking to both aisles just to kind of get a gauge of what they're thinking, where they're at. And I was kind of going down the line. I was like, hey, what are things that we absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, agree on? Like, absolutely, like, hey, this isn't a left or right issue. This is an American issue. We need it. That is one of them. Everyone I've talked to thinks having debt is a really bad thing. So I was like, oh, thank God people are listening to the podcast, or at least agree with us on that. And the other one is everyone I spoke to thinks gerrymandering is bad. So, California under Governor Gavin Newsom has deployed a high-stakes response to the mid-decade redistricting maneuvers by Republican-led states, particularly Texas. Newsom's election rigging response act would would override the state's independent redistricting. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk. Redistricting commission. Oh my goodness. Currently in place to curb partisan influence and propose new congressional maps that could net Democrats up to 5 additional U.S. House seats, conditional on other states implementing a similar partisan redistricting effort. This plan, set for a specific voter referendum on November 4th, 2025, aims to neutralize the GOP's aggressive remapping in states like Texas and injecting California directly into the growing national battle of representation. Observers warn that this move may escalate a redistricting arms race, prompting other states such as Illinois, New York, and Indiana to consider mid-cycle map redraws to bolster their party's influence in Congress. So, CK, I know we've talked before, but for the audience, we both think gerrymandering is horrible. And you can look at any state, and I want to use the state of Connecticut, which is all blue. Anyone, please just Google the congressional districts in Connecticut, and it makes no effing sense. It's already gerrymandered for the Blues, for the Democrats to win no matter what. It is the most lopsided map. Just look at it. So, CK.
Massachusetts as well.
Yeah, Massachusetts is horrible. So this is nothing new. It's just now mainstream because other states are trying to fight back, and now it's in the national mainstream. And so because of that, people are finally talking about this, where I don't think, CK, it's been talked about in decades. This has been silently happening. So What are your thoughts? Is Newsom starting an arms race, or did Texas start the arms race and California's joining that race? Like, what's going on here?
The arms race was started by Governor Jerry in 1913. I forget what, I want to say Massachusetts. Governor Jerry redrew the districts in such a way where everyone was like, this is ridiculous. And they made a political cartoon saying, that it's in the shape of a salamander. So they called it the gerrymander. And that's where the term comes from. And he was a capital D Democrat. I think it was a different party name back then, but what the Democrats turned into. The Democrats literally wrote the book for this. And who benefits more from gerrymandering? The Democrats. And who has more to lose if we go into a gerrymandering arms race? The Democrats, because there's a lot of the Democratic states like Massachusetts and Connecticut, they're already gerrymandered all the way. You can't get any worse. Illinois is already pretty bad. California's already pretty bad. You can get them a little worse, but if the South, particularly Southeast, decided to start gerrymandering, it'd be over. Again, the Democrats would never win for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I'm looking at maps right now as you're talking, just Googling all the different maps, and it makes no sense. So what do you think will happen then? Do you think Newsom's going to back down? Do you think the Republicans can push back? Do you think there'll be national outrage enough? Or, okay, let me ask it. Actually, I want to ask this one. Do you think gerrymandering is just a political thing that's going to happen, or do you think it can really actually get changed? And this chaos that we're going to run into is going to push everything over the edge, where we actually get back to common sense and redrawing all district lines so there is no gerrymandering and it actually makes sense?
It will never get changed.
Okay.
Maybe never. I say that is because who gerrymanders? It's the people in power, right?
Yes.
That's who has the power to redraw the map. And if you are currently in power and you're using this to your benefit, why would you make the playing field fair to hurt yourself? The people in power will always do the corrupt thing to maintain their power. That's why our Congress is so bad, because they use precedent and they keep doing it and say, "Oh, you did it. Now I'm going to do it even worse." And then the pendulum just keeps swinging, and no one ever says, "Okay, I'm going to make it fair and equal now that I'm in power, even though it's going to hurt me." No one does that. The last person to do that was George Washington when he said, even though I won 2 terms, I'm going to step down now.
Yep.
That's the last person to cede power in terms of, hey, in the long term, this is a good idea.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm with you. I don't know how California is going to turn out. I think that's still a toss up of what that map is going to look like. But yeah,
I also think Newsom does not give two shits about gerrymandering. He doesn't give a shit if this vote passes. I think it's actually tight. He doesn't care if it leads to an arms race. The only thing Newsom cares about is staying relevant as being the opposition to Donald Trump. I'm the guy, so that he can be on the 2028 ticket. That's the only thing. He doesn't care if he ruins the country. He doesn't care if he ruins California. He does not care because we talked about the salamander. Well, Newsom is the chameleon. He'll wear whatever face he needs to so that he can have power.
So here's my theory on Gavin Newsom. I was thinking about this over the weekend. I think he's clearly the front runner and who the Democrats are trying to push to the national stage for people to rally around, because everyone knows that the Democrats don't have anyone. They don't know if it's him or AOC or whatever. I think they're using him as a sacrificial goat. I think they understand that Newsom sucks. From a historical standpoint of how he has been in California is not good. I think the Democrats know that. I think just about everyone knows that. And he doesn't fit their model. He's like the most stereotypical like tall white male. It's like a lot of things the Democrats don't typically push. And he just
You mean like Bill Clinton and Al Gore and Joe Biden and name your candidate?
Yeah, but then you have the Hillary Clintons and the Kamala Harrises, But my point is that they're using him to take all the heat from the Republicans, all the focus for the Republicans, and in the background, they're going to, in the shadows, behind closed doors, the grassroots movement, they're going to push up other candidates. So by the time the election comes around, they have 2 or 3 other candidates that have a legitimate shot because the Republicans aren't focused on it. The right-wing media is not focused on it. And Gavin is just the sacrificial goat that's taking all the heat, and then they're going to be positioned very well for the presidential race, because I don't think Gavin Newsom has a shot in heck to win. He is.
MR, oh my gosh! This might be the first conspiracy that I put down, and I say bogus.
Is it even that much of a conspiracy? It just seems like a good strategy. Like if I were the Democrats, I would be like, all right, I need someone to take the heat, go up against Trump, lose.
They just ran a Harris Walsh ticket. They don't care about competent, and also.
They don't know what a good strategy is. They're dumb.
There is no one competent. Gavin Newsom is the most well-spoken Democrat there is. And I mean,
is he?
Yeah, and
that's terrifying.
He speaks better than Donald Trump, right?
Well, you mean like that? Okay, yeah.
He's the closest they have to like a statesman like Barack Obama. Policy-wise, awful, but not worse than. You know what the Dems don't want? They don't want Zoran Mamdani. They don't want AOC. They don't want Bernie Sanders. We've seen this election after election. Those guys on the fringe, they get pushed out. Why? Because you can't own them. What the Democrats want is control and ownership. They don't care if you're a puppet. Gavin Newsom's the perfect puppet, and Gavin Newsom doesn't care. And I would say this is not really a Democrat thing. This is a both sides thing. Most people don't want someone you don't want a Thomas Massey. You want someone the party wants control, which means they need a candidate they can control. And Gavin Newsom is the perfect candidate for that. And if you're saying they don't want white guys, I mean, they're pushing Andrew Cuomo in New York down our throat, even though the people have spoken over and over that Mamdani is their guy. They say they want the minorities and the women and everything else so that they can get the minority and the women vote, but they don't actually give a shit about the minority of the women.
They do and they don't. I mean, they still put 2 females on the ticket, the only party to ever do that in the history of America. So to some extent they care. Now, is it because they think it's the best opportunity to win? Of course, any party's going to take action. One could argue that Hillary Clinton was actually a good presidential candidate because of her
I
time in service.
Sure, sure.
Now, I
But
don't think
I would
most
say
people
they
can say the same about
trounced
Kamala Harris.
Joe Biden out there, half brain dead as the white male, and they
Yeah,
only
because
pulled him
he was vice
because
president.
he.
Everyone loved Obama. Yeah.
But on the second term, they trounced him out there and only pulled him when they knew it was like he had zero negative chance to win.
Yeah, that's true. I know. That's why they did a debate super early with Trump and Biden. Biden got roasted. And then we got Kamala Harris, the worst presidential candidate of our lifetimes. I'm always, you know how you just love talking about Epstein? I just love talking about how angry I am that Harris was a presidential candidate for how bad she is. I got to get in where I can. All right, moving to our final topic, CK, before I'll let you talk about whatever your heart desires. On September 2nd, 2025, yes, today of the recording, the United States military executed a lethal precision strike in the southern Caribbean, targeting a drug smuggling vessel that had departed from Venezuela and was operated by the Tren de Argu cartel, I might have mispronounced that, which the United States has designated as a narco-terrorist organization. The operation carried out in international waters resulted in the death of 11 alleged smugglers and was intended as a deterrent to drug traffickers headed toward the United States. President Trump shared dramatic footage of the strike via Truth Social and labeled the vessel's occupants as terrorists, while Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed the action and characterized it as part of a broader anti-cartel military campaign. The strike follows a significant deployment of U.S. naval and marine forces to the region and has heightened tensions with Venezuela's president, who condemned the actions as a violation of sovereignty and warned of potential armed race. I'd be very surprised what they mean by that. They're about to go toe to toe with USA, like not a chance.
Yeah.
CK, is
Yeah.
this the first of many steps for the United States to eventually launch an all-out war on the cartels, or is this basically saying, hey, this is not the same old policies we've run on deterring cartels?
I hope it's not escalation of war. To your point, Venezuela saying, be careful, this is going to lead to an arms race, is like me looking at Usain Bolt and saying, be careful, this is going to lead to a track and field race. Good luck, buddy. Yeah, I will say I am not a big fan of drone strikes and predator drones and all of these things. But this is probably a better strike than any strike we've done in the Middle East. In terms of like, you do it in the middle of the ocean when they're, when it's just 11, male adults with probable drugs and you have ID. And like, I'm not leveling, like the signal leaks. We leveled the apartment. He was walking in with his girlfriend. How many children just died, and how many terrorists did you just radicalize? How many families did you just radicalize because you killed their daughter and all of the next of kin. If you can start killing them in the middle of the ocean, I think I'm on board.
Wow, that's big for you.
But it's such a slippery slope. And like, it always starts with something like that. And then it goes to, we just leveled, this square block in Bogota. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I find it very interesting because no one has stood up to the cartels. Like we've, talked in the 80s about it and we stepped up a lot of things on the border and things like that. But the cartels are incredibly, incredibly powerful. And I think we're seeing a very strategic chain of actions happening. For all the criticism the Trump administration gets, whether it's Trump or Marco Rubio or who's ever calling the shots, I think this is being played out textbook. That will only make sense if you're looking in the rearview mirror. Remember, a few weeks ago, a senator in Mexico came onto Fox News and started talking about how the government is corrupt, that they're owned by the cartels. And now you have a strike like this. I think everything is happening in slow moving pieces that are basically signifying to the American people, hey, in 3 months from now, we have built up the media and therefore the public to understand, hey, these cartels are bad. We need to do something about it. Hey, if a Mexican senator comes on and says her president is corrupted by the cartels, if all these drugs are coming across the border, now the illegal immigrants have slowed down dramatically. But the point is, I do think, CK, it is very, very believable that we will be doing strikes into Mexico, into other places throughout Central America to stop the cartels. Now, I think the question we have to ask ourselves is, at what point would it work? And at what point do we find ourselves engaged in a war we either can win or can't?
You want to know my hot take for stopping the cartels?
Yeah, go for it.
Legalize cocaine and marijuana at the federal level.
Well, they tried doing that in Oregon, right? Well, I think they took a more aggressive approach where they like legalized all like class 1 substances, which I believe include like heroin and meth and some other things. And it worked out so horrible that they had to reverse it because they had a huge epidemic on their hands. Turns out some drugs are very addictive and destroys the human body, which will then destroy society.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's a good idea. I know weed's like legalized in most places, but like that's the libertarian in you.
Yeah, it's a libertarian to me. You're telling me
if you want to kill yourself, you can. Go for it. It's your life.
You're telling me it's not happening in D.C. and San Francisco and Chicago and
aren't
LA?
All these cities that we make fun of that we're like, oh, this city sucks so much we have to federalize the police, bring in the National Guard because it's so effed up because no one wants to go there.
Yeah, but it's already happening. And instead of the U.S. government getting that money for, crazy taxes and whatnot, we're giving it to these gangs.
Let's go full capitalist to destroy our own society.
It's already destroyed. All of the people that will do drugs are already doing it, right?
I don't believe that for a second. There's new people entering the drug market every single day. A 15-year-old, a 6-year-old, 17, 18-year-old, and so on.
All I'm saying is the legal aspect of it is not preventing many people. It's not like we make it legal.
I think accessibility is huge. I think if you're having a shit moment in your life and you have the opportunity to turn to drugs and it's right at the corner, you're like, hey, this might make me feel better. I'm depressed. My life is not going the way it's going for whatever reason. That accessibility, increases the odds of someone getting addicted to drugs. And again, I'm talking about like bad drugs. Like I'm talking like heroin, meth, all those things.
But
like,
is heroin getting smuggled? I think people are getting heroin from pharmaceuticals or, and who else, or from China. They're getting them from,
Oh, yeah. If you want to talk about how more drugs are now coming through the Canadian border than the Mexican because of how much we stepped up the presence on the Mexican border, that's a real thing. That is a real thing.
But what's coming from South America? Cocaine? Cocaine is not like a depressing drug. People aren't depressed on cocaine. You're talking about Wall Street bankers and stuff like that. And I first of all, I want to say, like, I'm against using cocaine. But people are using cocaine. So legalize it, tax the shit out of it, make it expensive.
I don't believe that for a second. First of all, I'm probably arguably one of the most anti-drug individuals you'll meet.
I am too, but
no. You take that the tax argument. It doesn't work. If you look at California, there's like, oh, bring all your weed stores, open them all up. We'll just tax it. Well, it becomes a taxer so heavy that it doesn't make sense for these stores to open, and then the black market, which has existed for such a long time, stays intact because it's cheaper.
So I mean, I guess I just generally don't know. Do you think as much weed is coming out of South America as it was 15 years ago? There's no chance when every corner there's a CBD store.
I'm actually very curious. I would have to look that up. I don't know.
And I think cocaine same way. Now, like, again, there has to be laws about driving and other things. And
but now you're going down the slippery slope, of if we
already do about alcohol. Alcohol is just as addicting. So it's like we already pick and choose based on the lobbying money and this and that. And so
no, there's such a massive difference. One, there's a cultural difference, and two, which do not underestimate that. And then one, you can have a bottle of beer and be completely unfazed in any way whatsoever. You're not smoking a joint and not being unfazed. So I think the way that you can indulge
weed is not even in the conversation. Weed is pretty much legal.
Okay, you can't do a line of Coke and not be impacted by it, where you can drink a beer and not be impacted by it. Like, I do think there's a difference.
I think you could do a line of Coke, especially if it's straight like a regulated cocaine and not laced with fentanyl, which most cocaine from south of the border is. And you would probably be in better shape than you would if you did alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant. Cocaine makes you like your reaction's better. It's an upper. How many
This
athletes?
video is going
How
to get
many?
demonetized now. I'm so upset.
No, how many athletes in the 70s have now admitted that they were doing lines before the game? Now,
No, that's the
it's
thing. I know
bad.
this.
It's going to cause heart attacks and whatnot. Grown adults can be destructive. I mean, we don't limit diabetics from eating junk food? You can.
Yeah,
We
that's a
let
good.
in this country. We let grown adults be destructive. We let people with lung cancer smoke.
I
I
see the
mean,
point you're making. Yeah, the hypocrisy is there, but you're basically saying like, hey, instead of just letting some of the bad things happen, let's let all of the bad things happen.
no, I'm not saying all, because I mean China's letting heroin in, and I think heroin is a real problem. And also, I think it's easier to shut down. But I'm just saying, if you really want to combat the drug cartels, you shut them down when you legalize it. You make this thing over the counter, not under the counter, and they go away. That problem goes away.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I get the point that you're making. Is if you take away their revenue source, it's going to dry up, and then what do they have? Just a shit ton of guns and loyal people that are now angry and upset. And then what do they become? Afghanistan 2.0. You just have a shit ton of angry people that are armed to the teeth. Might as well take on the government at that point and overthrow it and become a failed state.
Because we took away their cocaine revenue?
Well, your argument not that, hey, if we legalize all these drugs, then the cartels will falter because they have no revenue? What happens when they falter then?
What happened in El Salvador and Argentina?
Yeah, El Salvador is the gold standard, but that's because actually we should probably do a case study on El Salvador. Like that's incredibly impressive on
And
what happened there.
Argentina. True statesmen that aren't controlled by drug lords
Yeah,
come to
but would you
power.
make the argument that Mexico is a cartel state?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's been.
So how would you go about fixing it outside of just legalizing and just praying that we source all of our drugs ethically through the United States and we don't bring any of it ethically from Mexico and front like a Swiss bank, and all you're doing is buying it from the cartels anyways?
What, how would we go about it?
Like how would you go about?
You would bankrupt their money roll.
No. One, I don't think that's true. You can't make what? Can you make cocaine or can you grow cocaine in the United States? I think the answer is no. I'm pretty sure it has to be, near the hemisphere, right? So what do? So the drug cartels just already own the business. They're just going to sell to the United States through a legal company.
Yep. Okay. So now you regulate it and you create jobs and you get rid of the
because the blood
killing
diamonds are,
aspect of it.
and just force them into suits and ties. Not going to blood diamond it up at all.
But you know what you don't have? You don't have trafficking. No one's digging underground tunnels because they're just flying it in legally and then flying back to their home state. I don't care if I'm an American, if they're blood diamonding in Colombia. That's not my problem. That's Colombia's problem. Isn't that the America First movement? Isn't that what we're doing with our iPhones and the cobalt mines? Isn't that what we're doing in China with the child labor? That's China's problem. That's Africa's problem. That's South America's problem.
So let's
America first.
So let's move back to the world of reality. I think you
What
and
is
I
the
would
world
both,
reality?
No. I think you and I would both agree that the United States is not going to legalize cocaine. I think that's pretty sure thing, at least in the next 4 years. At least under Trump's administration,
Next 4 years is not a long time.
But but we're working again.
You'd say the same thing about marijuana in 2020. And again,
I think it was already legal in 2020.
No,
like it started becoming legal in like 2016 is when they started doing medical.
2000. We were saying the same thing about marijuana in 2000. 15 years, the whole culture changed.
Yeah, but I'm talking about under the Trump's administration, who's actively going after the cartels. So knowing that is not an option, where he's going to legalize cocaine and that he's still going to target cartels, what do you think are the actual next steps that will happen?
Yeah, hopefully it's de-escalate. I mean, hopefully the cartels know this is a battle we can't win.
Like we can't win or they can't win?
They
Like the
can't
U.S.
win.
can't win? Okay.
Venezuela or anyone in Venezuela can't win. Worst case scenario where we switch the war on terrorism with the war on drugs, and we're back into the Reagan era, and we're spending money, troops, everything else on 30-year wars, blah 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 blah
You
blah
think it would
blah
be
blah.
different though? Like he would actually take the next step and actually do drone strikes in there, send troops in there, and actually take them all out?
Do I think that's likely? No.
I think it's on the board.
You never know. I don't know.
I think it's on the board. I would not be surprised if we started doing drone strikes into Mexico.
What would it take? A 9/11 type attack, right?
I don't even think it'll take that. I definitely don't think it would even take that far. You can find any example you want of missionaries dying in Mexico from cartels. You can pull from any historical thing that happened in the last 5 years about civilians dying and just saying, hey, this needs to happen now. And if he's winning across the board, especially when it comes to crackdown on these cities, the amount of public support that's going to come with it, he's going to ride the wins, man. And then the more wins you have, the more risk you're going to take.
We will not put boots on the ground until at least after the midterms, is my prediction.
That's fine. Yeah. That's not that far away. That's what, 14 months away? That's not that far away. That's believable.
No, that's fair.
All right, CK, let's wrap it up. What is most on your mind that we did not talk about today?
All right. Two things. We'll do the quick one. Ilhan Omar, this is over in the news. She joined Congress in what year, MR? Pop quiz.
2014, 2016?
2019. So
Darn
6
it.
years.
Okay.
You know her net worth that she reported when she joined in 2019?
When she joined, probably like 100,000.
Negative 45,000.
Didn't even know that was possible. She must have been in a lot of debt.
She was in debt when she joined. You know what her net worth is today?
Ooh, she's a pretty predominant figure, so probably around like the $25 to $35 million range.
Yeah, 30 million.
Dude, I am great at this, and I didn't even look that up. That is straight just guessing how corrupt our system is.
So she, I mean, how does that happen for a congresswoman?
Corruption.
Yeah, insider trading, all of it. So that was one point. I don't even have to go into detail on that. It's done. Back to what I started with, and I think I'm going to start and end every podcast with this until I get answers.
Which won't happen, so at least we'll bore the audience to death.
Jeffrey Epstein. Today, Thomas Massey met with multiple victims of Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay.
And I think the House Oversight Committee did. But they heard a bunch of stuff, and then Thomas Massey just added a bill to the floor. He didn't. Sorry. He signed a discharge petition to force a vote on binding legislation to release the Epstein files. And it's worded to release every single thing and just, what's the word? To keep all the victims' names secret.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Redact the victims' names, every single thing else is released.
Wow.
So
what's the over on this happening? 0?
The discharge petition needs 218 signatures. You're going to get most of the Democrats. You probably won't get the Republicans. I would say it's about 30-70. And you know what Mike Johnson did?
What did Mike Johnson do? I know he's your favorite person of all time.
Yeah, Mr. Big Beautiful Bill himself. He added a bill to floor to direct the House Oversight Committee to continue its ongoing investigation, which is, to me, a nothing burger. But you know why he did that?
I don't know why.
This is according to Thomas Massey, and I believe this 100%. So he said, he tweeted, Speaker Johnson just scheduled this meaningless vote to provide political cover for the members who don't support our bipartisan legislation to force the release of the Epstein files. So anyone who doesn't sign this discharge petition, he can just say, oh, well, they did vote to continue the investigation. It's like you can, just give them nothing to cover their ass.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
But Massey, in the first week of August, said Speaker Johnson is going to go in congressional recess and not let me take this vote to floor. That's fine. They reconvene the first week of September, and then September 2nd, at this time, I will bring this in discharge petition forward. And he said that a month ago. He did exactly that today.
Interesting. So overall, are you 30? Like you said, like a minute ago, are you 30% optimistic that something will be released?
Nope, nothing's going to get released.
Okay.
The Republicans are going to hide all this crap, and then on Thursday, NFL will start, and everyone's attention will be on the NFL / Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Hey, they're engaged now, man. That's a thing. That is a thing.
The opioid of the masses will prevail because it always prevails.
Yeah. Welcome to the Matrix. I read a conspiracy theory that says, we're in the Matrix because they're removing all the telephone booths, and in the Matrix in the movie, that was the only way to get out of the Matrix. I don't know how true that is, but you don't see phone booths anymore. You don't see landlines anymore.
Conspiracy theory you brought up today that I will not pick up.
All right, we've been rambling long enough. Everyone, if you still made it to the end, 1, thank you, and 2, we hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'm sure you did if you made it this long. So, as always, please like, share, subscribe. Please tell everyone you know so we can get more than 200 people listening. That would be really cool. And,
I want 5.
You want 5 people? I think we can manage 5 people. I think we can just watch it 5 times and it'll
500.
Count. 500. That would be pretty cool. I'll hold it to you. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.